Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 252, Evolutionary Prime Forms. This is something, I was thinking about jellyfish the other day and the Portuguese man-of-war. Now, the Portuguese man-of-war, and I believe this is the case, is not a true jellyfish in the evolutionary sense and simply resembles them and is, I don't exactly know what kind of life form, something else, some other weird life form that doesn't even have a nervous system and, probably shouldn't exist at all. Sort of like octopi. The way they evolved is just extremely strange, and they're probably, from another planet, a la Lovecraft. They're probably conspiring to take over the world. There's like a giant octopus 10 miles wide in the middle of the ocean with a giant brain, and it's sending its minions out to attack ships. That's more spooky woo maybe than you'd like to think, but anyway, I got to thinking. You think about like butterflies and birds, and they both develop the ability to flap wings in order to gain lift and move around in the sky. You think about in evolution all of the times in which something has evolved within two different lineages where it wasn't before. And I got to thinking, wouldn't that beg the question, would there be something as a prime form within evolution? That is, a form that will tend to be emulated by species that then gain more success from it. If they are more successful and therefore more survivable, and last for therefore, as an average, a longer period of time, would those forms would not tend to be replicated in more intelligent species that may exist? So aliens, in other words, intelligent life forms. So intelligent life forms, you would think, would be symmetrical in the linear sense, probably, most of the time. It would just make sense. They may have initially had, and this would be a vestigiality, I would assume at some technological point, the ability to fly, would have had a larger cranial size, things of that nature. And then I thought that the geology and the chemical composition, the climate, the zone, it's called the Goldilocks zone, this is within mainstream astronomy, although I don't fully agree with it, that the idea is that life will tend to generate on planets out there that have conditions that we would consider favorable in the sense related to organic chemistry. That is, that will allow DNA or something similar to exist, to be expressed in the sense of protein or whatever. You could consider the possibility of silicon-based life. I think probably that does exist out there as well. And so you'd have these different basic forms of life with different chemical compositions maybe, but there would be certain things that would tend to always be emulated. So it's like, you watch a sci-fi movie and a lot of times all the aliens are bipedal and humanoid, and then they're just various expressions of that, and some of them are a little more human-like than others, and sometimes this plays a political or diplomatic role. But there aren't sea anemone people, there aren't jellyfish aliens, and if they are, in some cases, they're relegated to the animalistic. What if this isn't just an anthropic Hollywood trope that happened to hold sway until more recent modern times, but what if this is actually real? What if the prime form of evolution simply always tends to promulgate itself, so that there are certain features that a species will tend to have when intelligent? Not always, but will tend because it has increased survivorhood. For instance, the ability to manipulate surroundings in an intelligent manner requires something to manipulate it with. That doesn't mean that opposable thumbs or hands or whatever are necessarily common, but something approximating that idea. A prime form from which all the others would be relative to would exist. They may not all have bilateral symmetry, but they would certainly all be symmetrical. Either that or they'd be blob creatures. That'd be interesting if the most intelligent life forms in the galaxy, it turned out to be like an amorphous, like slimy creature that just like slimes its surroundings and has all of its organs and shit floating around in a sort of protoplasm. That'd be funny. Or you could consider the possibility, and if you look at bell curves and probabilities, this is unlikely, but it is possible, that we're an aberrance. No, maybe that's why we haven't been contacted. We're just hideous monstrosities and we look different from most intelligent life forms in the universe. Maybe most of them have radial symmetry. Maybe they consider us very odd for not having this. You look at some of those Hindu art pieces where Shiva or something has like 1,000 arms, and maybe that's what we should look like. We should have 1,000 arms. I wish I had an extra set sometimes, because then I could use a computer over here. I could hold my cup and drink at the same time. I'd have another one just to, I don't know, dingle myself or whatever while I'm doing my work. I think that'd be quite fun. Yeah. So yeah, this is a little bit of a spooky woo, sort of a pseudoscience video. I know I take it semi-seriously. The very idea, though, centrally, I think I would actually agree with unironically. I think that there will be kinds of forms, physical forms within living things that would be replicated across space based on the fact that biology, to the best of our knowledge, would arise in certain situations preferentially. That is, not all life would arise on Earth-like planets. But we know Earth-like planets have to be conducive to life, at least to some degree, because Earth has life on it. That may be an aberrance too. Could be that the average planet that generates life is considerably more aquatic, considerably warmer. By the way, I would not be unamenable to the idea that that's the case. I think that it is. But we know that Earth-like planets can generate life, and there are certain reasons for that. Prevalence of water, prevalence of seasons and so forth. The molten core of the planet helps. A moon, we're in what's called the Goldilocks zone. If that's the case, not universally, but much of the time, then you would tend to have certain things that life forms would tend to. Life forms will inhabit whatever niche they're able to inhabit. Therefore, you're going to find on most planets, I would think, animals that are capable of flight. Well, biologically speaking, this would mean wings, essentially. Or gliding like a flying squirrel. So animals that stretch their skin out and make crazy noises. Animals that would be aquatic, animals that would be non-aquatic. They'd be on land, or again, they'd be amphibious in nature and inhabit both, perhaps. If they're in water, fins would be a prime form, something to make them motile. In the water itself, the water is to the ocean floor as the air is to the Earth's surface on dry land. You would have animals with wings. You'd have photosynthesis potentially going on. Some of these biological traits would tend to be common across the universe. That's at least what I would believe. That's about all. Peace out.